Everybody but Judge Blott and Judge Hal and Judge Hal Hendricks have to stop talking. They can keep talking all the time. So, Johnny Linton, because, well, he's been as busy as I have, but he sort of said, we got to do this. And so Johnny Linton really worked hard to organize this for my friend Bob Wallace. And I want to turn the program over to Johnny.
Mark said, say a few words, because this is a tribute to Bob Wallace. And I said, Mark, how do you say words in tribute to somebody who gets a standing ovation from this group every time he speaks? So I said, well, the only thing to do is ask Bob Wallace, why is he special? Why was he in 4 sections of Best Lawyers back when there were only a few sections, and nobody else in South Carolina was in 3? If you were, don't speak up. And I said, Bob, how did you do all this? And he said, well, you know, part of it is, first of all, he said, I dispute that. And he said, but part of it was this organization. He said, when I came here, you could run up to the Piedmont, and I had people that I looked up to more than you would ever look up to me. Whether it was Francis Marion, J.D. Todd. He said, you know, there was a guy over in Spartanburg, when Spartanburg was nothing. Bob Chapman. He debated Charles Allen Wright at the ABA National Convention. He said, then you could come down the interstate, and Thomas Harrington Pope had the confidence to run against Judge Blott's father, the Speaker of the House. He said, I learned all these things from these guys. He said, but I'll tell you what would be special if y'all decide to have this group, if you can get, he said, if you can get a few of them to come together. He said, I bet you there'll be one person who'll be there. I said, who's that? He said, Thomas English McCutcheon. He said, Mr. McCutcheon is the epitome of this organization. Now, he may be the oldest attending member here, but when Dan McLeod needed somebody to declare the boundary of South Carolina against the state of Georgia, he called on Tom McCutcheon. And Bob says, but you really get into Orangeburg and Marshall Williams, but when you come to Charleston, there's something extra special. And of course, we all know that there are 2 really important ladies here tonight. 3 counting Brucey. Joy, who, when we asked, have you got a photo of you and Bob at graduation from law school? She said, hell no. Why? She said, I was in the delivery room. Is that true?
That was absolutely true.
You should have been there.
Baby was born at 10 o'clock. I went over there with my cap and gown and all. And after the baby was born, I said, Joy, why don't you come on with me? And she wouldn't go.
6 children. Bob was working all the time, so we know who raised those children. But 19 grandchildren. Every one of them has a bunk bed that Bob built. True?
True.
All right. But when he came to Charleston on this journey, he said, you know, Arthur Howe, Arthur Howe, and Arthur Howe. He taught me everything, and I tried to pass on what I learned to Capers and others here in Charleston. And so Bruce Howe is here, and both as a friend of the Wallaces and in a representative capacity for a great solicitor who, when he moved over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, had to prosecute. Back in the days when the FBI was against the prosecutor, his own prosecutor, because of civil rights. His daughter Brucey, her honor, soon we hope to, if the government slowdown doesn't postpone it, become a federal judge, and her daughter, Brucey, a lawyer. All from understanding what law practice is about. Cumming Gibbs and many others. But Bob, you're the first South Carolinian to speak at the national meeting. And Mike Smith used to be the regent. He's now the treasurer. And he called and said, I want to be there. I can't because I have to be in Oklahoma representing the president of American College. But he said, I'll tell you this, and I want every member of y'all's chapter to know this. They wanted to have Bob Wallace speak on Friday night. I had been the only person who had heard it. I insisted that he be the final speaker on Saturday. He said, you know why? I said, well, probably because you want to be fair to the other people speaking and not have them go out. And he said, no, that would be a good reason. But he said the real reason is the lifeblood of any organization is its new members. And I wanted, they have a new members luncheon right after Bob's talk. He said, if they're not wiping a tear as they come into that luncheon, I'm not letting them in. So Bob Wallace doesn't think he's special. We do. We want to pay a little tribute to you because we all sort of bask and reflect the glory of what you've accomplished and what you continue to spread throughout our profession. And Mark, I think you got something that you...
You know, we've got a special gift for you tonight. And I want to tell you that it's sort of a memory of this building. 1973, I got out of law school and I came and rented space here. And Bob Wallace was on the second floor across the hall.
Right here.
Right here, right here. But those doors were closed. Wait a minute, those doors were closed all the time. You got into his office right there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Paul was
But with an American flag behind him.
Yeah.
And so we called him Pope. We called him Pope Paul. And then eventually the Pope moved out of here and this became the library.
Yeah.
And I would come down here and study in the library. Nobody can believe I ever studied a damn thing. But I would come in here and study in the library, and I was trying to figure out how to plead something. And I went to Bob. I said, Bob, or Mr. Wallace, Mr. Wallace, how did you learn how to plead? And he said, I just studied Wallace on pleadings. and I watched Bob. He was also the solicitor at the time. Arthur was the assistant solicitor. And the two of them tried cases back to back to back to back all week. I thought Bob was at least 7 feet tall. He was a giant in the courtroom, and he still would be. Thank goodness he's retired. Some of us can get some business on the plaintiff's side. Joy's brought you a lot of joy in your life. All your children have brought you joy in your life. There are many stories that we've all got about this building. I thank you for being a mentor to me, and I think everybody in this group thanks you for all you've done, and the honor you're bringing the state of South Carolina by being the first person ever invited to speak at the national meeting. Wait. So, Bob, as a special memory of tonight, Johnny Linton, bless his soul, who's got more energy than I have, which is hard. Johnny Linton had this commission for you and Joy. And it is the Rutledge House where we are today. And Bob's office would be right over here. Still not sure where it is. Bob, thank you so much for everything you've done. And
I really can't believe this. You know, Frankie Marion was a state chair, and he's now the regent. All I'm going to do is make a speech. You know, if somehow, by some mistake, they'd made me president of American College of Trial Lawyers, we'd be having this meeting at the mansion, I guess, the governor's mansion. And y'all would be erecting a statue to me somewhere. I don't understand any of this, but y'all are just just so nice, I don't know what to say.
I'm concerned about the black ribbon.
Yeah.
Blue ribbon.
Some of you are not going to come to dinner, so I want to, do I have a few minutes?
Yes, sir. Of course.
You know, the American College didn't come to South Carolina until 1955. I finished law school in 1959. I didn't even know what the American College was. It was some 10 or 15 years later, I read something about it. It had a list of the members, the fellows, and they were the pillars of the bar. There were only 10 or 15 of them, but they were Bob Figg and Dave Robinson and Sam Watt and Tom Pope and later Marshall Williams and later Tom McCutcheon and Ben Scott Whaley and Morris Rosen and Gedney Howe. They were people I would go down to the courthouse and watch them try a case so I could learn to be a trial lawyer. I don't know whether you've ever been to an art museum where they got all these famous people up there, sculptures and paintings. They were up there. I was down here. I had no aspiration to be a fellow in American College. It wasn't going to happen. I could just as easily fly to the moon. And then later in 1985, Arthur Howe, who had made me his assistant solicitor for 5 years and been my mentor and godfather to some of my children, as was Brucey, a godmother, he called me and he said, "You go get a letter from the American College. So whatever you do, don't throw it away. Open it up and read it." He knew me pretty well. And it was an invitation. And I got my wife and I think 3 of our children, and we went to San Diego, California, where I was inducted on my birthday, April the 9th, 1986. The best birthday present I ever had. And after that, I would go to all the meetings down at St. Simon, and then at Luther. I was afraid if I didn't go there, they'd probably kick me out. And every time I went, all the fellas, and particularly their spouses, and particularly the older fellas, it made me feel like I really belonged. Tom Pope, Tom McCutcheon, Marshall Williams. And then Mark had me make a talk last year to welcome some of the newer fellows, and all it was a talk. And the national president-elect was there, and he asked me afterwards, would I come to San Francisco and make that speech? I didn't even ask Joe. I said, "Yes, sir, I'll be right there." I know it didn't mean anything to anybody else, but to me it was huge. Bob Wallace will be invited to San Francisco to speak to the National College of Travel. I'm the first Wallace to ever graduate from college. I know my father's going to be there, and I know Arthur Howe's going to be there, and I know some of y'all will be there. And I just pray I won't let you down. I don't know what else to say to you about all this. It's just overwhelming. All I can just tell you is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the committee who did all this, Johnny Linton, I think he's been working full time doing this. I don't know what else he's been doing. And Mark and arranging it here in this building. And this painting, I don't know what to say. I'm just overwhelmed. All I can say is thank you again and again. You know, a lot of you here, Arthur Rosenblum, certainly Arthur Howe, Paul Euricchio, my father, we're all mentors, keepers, judges. If a day went by and I didn't learn something, I thought it was a day wasted. And every one of you have contributed to make me what I am, the good and the bad. And I can understand you don't want to take any credit for me, but I hope I can represent you well. And I know Joey joins me in thanking you for this.